Today, we have a special guest with us, Mr. Joel Austin from Thrivent. Thrivent is a financial company that helps you to build wealth. And so we're going to allow Joel to tell us a little bit more about what Thrivent is, why he works there, and what he can do for the folks like you who want to manage their money to grow their wealth and to invest in ways that actually are productive for and being good stewards of the income that you earn every day. So again, welcome everybody to Brick by Brick Building Homeownership. I'm your host, Suzi Beaver, Joel Austin from Thrivent. For the folks that don't know what Thrivent is, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Glad you all are joining us today. Just a quick synopsis of who Thrivent is. Thrivent is a over 100-year-old company, founded first in 1902. It is faith-based. It's a Fortune 500 company. It's the only Fortune 500 company that is a not-for-profit. They did fully disclose that they're a faith-based company. Now, there are some other Fortune 500 companies that if you read some of their stuff, they will have it in small print. Thrivent doesn't do that.
Gotcha.
Thrivent is, of course, has their headquarters in Appleton, Wisconsin, but it's made up a lot of what we call your hometown financial advisors. In other words, these are guys that years ago, these same guys, same type of guys would have been who your mom and dad went to downtown to work with their stuff and do all this. And so we're all kind of these independent, faith-based advisors who now work under the Thrivent banner, A+ rating for 14 years, Ethos, who regulates and rates ethical companies, has said Thrivent is the most ethical for 14 years running.
Wow.
So that's something we're very proud of. I'm very proud to be part of Thrivent. One of the reasons that I chose Thrivent as where to work, because I'd been in the financial industry for quite a long time, really since 2002, working on the insurance side and then migrating over to the full financial advisor side. One of the reasons I did that was because I got tired of the companies that I was working with, because I was an independent for a long time. And as an independent, a lot of the companies that I still worked with and wrote business with would send me notes and say, hey, you need to move your Bible on your desk. Or, hey, we got a complaint from one of our clients saying you had a Bible verse hanging up behind your head. So and we don't mind that, but when our clients come in, I'm like, well, first of all, they're my clients. I just chose to do the business through a particular company. And after a while, I got to talking to some of my friends, because in everywhere you work, I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you work at, you have friends within that workspace and within the same industry at different places you work.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we all kind of hang out together, so to speak. And so I got talking to some of them, and one of them was a final straw where I got an email telling me I'd have to remove a Bible off my desk because it had offended somebody. And I'm like, first of all, this is my office. I'm paying for this here every dime. And so I told one of my buddies, and he said, you should try Thrivent. And so long story short, I hooked up with Thrivent. I love working with them. All their stuff is faith-based. Every one of their proprietary blends for their mutual funds, the ETFs, all of it, everything is through Thrivent. Now, if you want other Fidelity funds, like if you've got a fund at Fidelity, you can move it over to Thrivent, and Thrivent can manage it. Your local Thrivent advisor can manage that fund at Fidelity.
Oh, wow.
Some of the beauties of, though, being a nonprofit, or not a not-for-profit that Thrivent is they can, every year there's so much money, billions of dollars, that get given away to churches and charitable organizations throughout the United States, because number one, not-for-profits have to give away money.
Absolutely.
And they give it away to who their members, because it's a member-owned. There's no stockholders. There's no board of directors you got to answer to. None of that. It's all member-owned. And so it's who the members want the money given out to.
Oh, wow.
And it's not like the members vote and one major church in Atlanta, I'm just using that for instance, gets $1 billion. No, it's all churches throughout, all charitable organizations throughout. There was A lot of money that was given out during Helene, which a lot of us here in North Carolina were heavily affected with Helene. There was a lot of money given out through that. I mean, it's just incredible the things that you can do. And each member, through action groups and choice dollars, as it's called with Thrivent, has the right to do so much money in giveaways every year. So it's really awesome organization. I can't say enough good about them. I mean, just what they do and having that freedom
To have your Bible on.
to have my Bible on my desk. You know, and so yeah, I want to make sure that we understand that I am what's considered a financial advisor with Thrivent. I do own my practice. It is my own practice, housed under the Thrivent name. So, but yeah, 100 plus years, superior ratings, great ratings, ethical. I mean, just awesome. So
That's really awesome. That's very, very cool. So now that we've talked a little bit about Thrivent and the company at large, what exactly is it that you do at Thrivent for people? I mean, what is your role there? What do you provide? What services do you provide for your clients?
awesome. So as a dedicated financial planner, DFP, one of the first things we provide is financial planning.
Okay.
That's a little different than your normal CFP. There's a little bit more into it. Like, we don't use specific products. Like if you were to come to me, Miss Suzi, and say, hey, look, I want you to help me plan my financial future. We're going to use a plan that is based on what your wants, your goals, your needs, projected future things going on, such as if you say, well, when I turn 60, I want to downsize, which, can happen there. We're going to say, okay, so we want to plan for that downsizing. Or when I turn such and such, I want to buy a house, because we work with everybody from 18 all the way up to 90. I mean,
Wow.
we even have proprietary products that go up to 95. But the DFP role, basically, we're helping plan that. We're trying to plan for against inflation, against erosion, and we're talking about financial erosion. We work with several organizations such as yourself and those industries to try to help plan for, because here's the thing. You don't want to buy a house that's going to, and that's a big, huge purchase. You want to make sure you're planning that mortgage, the amortization schedule. You want to make sure that's working out for you. But also, if you're already looking at, like my family, my wife and I currently own a 3, almost 4 bedroom home, 2.5 bath with another potential bath that we're working at getting everything running there. What are we going to do once our daughter moves out, when it's just me and my wife and the dog? I mean, we don't need that. I mean, we're talking about almost a 3,000 square foot home that we don't need and don't want to pay the power bill on.
Absolutely.
So that's part of my financial plan. And then I come to people such as yourself and say, okay, how do we make this work? Because I'm going to have to look at selling this one, which I know that's real estate agent, but then I've got to get a loan here. So what's that going to look like?
Absolutely.
And how does that fit in it? So DFPs tend to work with a lot of other components, and then we plan around concepts rather than product.
Okay. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, because we can push products on you, but that doesn't necessarily solve the issues. Kind of like if you go to a doctor these days, and there's a lot of things, you have what's called, I hate to use this term, but you have holistic doctors, and they look at you and go, my wife goes to one, and that doctor has said, look, you have high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And the doctor said, but rather than just here, take this pill, let's take the next 18 months and let's work through some things and see if we can naturally, without giving you a pill, get this under control. Because the pills are great, except for the fact that there can be some side effects that maybe we don't want to have in the future.
Absolutely. My husband says at times that there's things that they just put a Band-Aid over, not necessarily heal it, when you can heal something by learning something more about something and going deeper into it. And like you said, making lifestyle changes.
That's it. And that's how the DFP really works. Because I'll give you, for example, I'm not going to mention any names, but I was working with a young couple a couple weeks ago, still working with them, but working with them. And one of the things I noticed was a heavy coffee addiction. I'm like, I love coffee too. Don't get me wrong. But I start out with my coffee at home.
Yeah.
Because I learned a long time ago, paying $5 to $6 for a small coffee at Starbucks that's not good.
No.
And then on top of that, when you're going multiple times throughout the day. So those are kind of things DFP looks at in more holistic looking at it. And then you asked what else I do as an investment advisor, Of course, I'm helping you invest your money in mutual funds and all the likes there.
Okay.
All that stuff. And then, of course, as a insurance provider, we're also looking at your life insurance, your disability, your long-term care propositions, because there again, we're looking at a whole life.
Exactly.
So that's just a synopsis.
Like you're in now.
Yeah,
I mean, that
pretty much what we do.
that really goes and ties into what I do. I mean, honestly, I don't just look at your mortgage today. Some of the things that I ask people when they say it's a young married couple, they're just recently married and now we want to purchase our first home. Okay, well, what does that look like? Currently, you're both working. You're not going to live in this home 9 times out of 10, just the two of you for, 30 years.
Right.
You're going to have children. At that point, what's that going to look like? Is one of you going to stay home? Are we going to have childcare expenses? Are we going to need another car, a larger car? What is that going to look like? These are things that we have to talk about now, even though we're just buying our first home. And that's just the concept of how I choose as an originator to talk with people, because their first home it's one of their first investments, but it's also one of those things that it's a building block and it's a starting point. And that doesn't define who you're going to be or where your life is going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So these are important things to consider. I always look at it and say, just because you can purchase this home or just because you can have this mortgage payment right now doesn't mean you necessarily should.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because that statement, ladies and gentlemen, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That is a biblical mandate. Most people don't realize that, but it is. You can actually look that up. That is actually in some of the writings of Paul in the New Testament.
Yes.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Now, in that, he's talking about certain things such as circumcision, such as eating certain foods, but it applies to so much of our life too.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're absolutely right, because here's the thing. I've watched so many people, we have this debate, do you buy a starter home or do you go ahead and buy the family home? And the answer that we say as DFPs or investment advisors is, well, it depends. It goes back to what you're looking for and what you're looking at and all this. And it depends too on such things such as location. But a big thing it depends on is, like you're talking about, loans.
Yeah.
Because you can get yourself into a loan just like you can get yourself into an investment that you can't necessarily get out of. We're actually talking about more financial well-being.
Absolutely. Their lives.
Home is the biggest purchase you're going to make.
That's it. That's
So
it. I mean, and that's what we look at is, are you fresh out of college? Are you married? Are you married with children right now? Just one child? I mean, it really just depends on where is your family structure at now. And I find that when I am talking with clients about this, they think that I'm very odd for asking them these questions, and it's like, well, I mean, we have to talk about this. These are things this is how life evolves. These are how changes happen in your life. Things happen. And I'd rather you be much more prepared for it in the offset that, you say your guys' game plan and you're thinking, I don't want children, or that I have, we're married now and our 5-year game plan is we're going to build our careers and we're not going to start having children until year 7. I mean, that's
an excellent plan.
It's a great plan, but you know what? Things happen. Things happen. And, it's just one of those things. Like, I look at, families that I remember when I was home and we had my 3 kids, and it was like, I remember just having my very first child, my son Eric, and I wasn't planning for him. I mean, I wasn't. I was sick and had antibiotics, and now I'm expecting a baby. I mean, I was literally 5 months pregnant with him before I even knew I was pregnant. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. But that's the thing. That's it. I mean, it was the shortest pregnancy ever. And I remember, we had just moved from the town that I grew up in. I was 5th generation in that town. And I just, at that point, I knew I wanted something more. And I worked for a credit union at the time, and I knew that I was never going to be able to grow past a certain place because I was in a small town. And I had an opportunity to move down from central coast of California down to San Diego. And I remember in my interview, the the lady who hired me, she's like, you're way overqualified for this position. And it was making more money and 30 hours a week instead of 40. And I said, the income is more by a couple $100, but still it was more. And I just said, I know I'm overqualified and thank you for recognizing that, but it's a starting place. If I can just get my foot in the door, it allows me to move and transition down here, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
Right.
And that was it. So she
But that was one of those you don't know that happened.
There you go. Well, then it was like, I mean, I was at the job, and I remember I was there for maybe 5-6 months, and I remember it was my birthday, and we were at the beach, and I grew up never using sunblock. We lived at the beach, and they kept saying, Suzi, you're getting awfully red. Oh, that's just what happens to me. The blood comes to my skin. I'm fine. Oh my gosh, I was so sick. I had such bad sun poisoning. It wasn't even funny. And that's how I found out I was pregnant with my son. And I remember that at the time, their dad didn't, he didn't really work. He was a painter, and he would just kind of do his own thing and so forth. So I had the job, I had the income at the time. And so then we decided that he was going to stay home with Eric. And I remember going to work. I would get up like at 6 o'clock in the morning just to beat traffic to get to work on time. And I would, at the time, I was working so much. By the time I paid health insurance, by the time that I, well, let me take that back. It was working fine with Scotty staying home and taking care of Eric, all up until one day he went for a job interview, and my girlfriend watched Eric, and I picked him up from her, and she was crying and beside herself because Eric was the perfect baby. I mean, perfect baby. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And she's like, I had to hold him the whole time. I couldn't even sit. And he cried and he cried. And I'm like, what? I mean, I was so flabbergasted. And I remember driving home going, what happened? I mean, she wasn't a mom yet. So it was like, I thought, well, maybe it had to be that. Maybe it had to be this, But then as I'm driving home, I'm picturing my house coming home every day with diapers everywhere and dishes never done. And just, it just seemed like a disaster when I walked in the door every day. And I get home and I sat Scott down. I said, can we talk? And he said, yeah, what's going on? And I said, can you tell me what happens here every day? And he broke and just started crying and telling me how everything was and how, because we nursed and he couldn't warm up the breast milk in the microwave, and he had to do it. And by the time he finally got that defrosted and got it warmed up, then it was time to feed again. And then he couldn't, I said, oh my God, you're going to go find a job the rest of this week, and Eric's going to childcare. I mean, just like that, our lives changed, because I thought, oh my, he never said anything. I guess I was clueless to what was really going on, but it was so funny. So now Eric was 6 months old. And by the time Eric was 14 months old, I mean, we're talking little over a year time frame of my son being born. Now, from 7 months to 14 months, I'm leaving the house at 7 o'clock in the morning to get to work on time. I'm taking Eric to childcare. I have to spend money on pantyhose because at that time they required you to wear pantyhose. And I would go through at least 2 a day because I just can never figure that stuff out. And so by the time I'm paying for our health insurance and everything else, I figured all of this out, and I was never seeing my child. That I sat down one day and said,
you've never seen your child, and you're paying out all that money for what you need to have.
Yes.
Yep.
I came home and I sat there and I
see it every day.
And I said, I'm going to work from home. And he's like, what? And I said, I can teach piano. I can open a childcare. There were so many things that I was qualified to do. And I said, I'm literally only bringing home $210 a month by the time taxes, childcare, pantyhose bill, and I mean, just all this stuff. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And from that point on, our lives changed drastically because I wasn't going to work anymore and doing the things, but it became as such a shock to us.
Be sure to check out part 2, where we dive into debt management strategies, credit tips, and more ways to build your financial future.